Today, we're going to dig into a story that's about so much more than just a fitness journey. Really, it's about tearing down a life to its foundations and rebuilding it, all sparked by this one powerful promise a father made. Let's get right into it. This right here, this is the question that changes absolutely everything. It's one of those moments of just total clarity where you suddenly redefine what success even means. The focus shifts. It goes from career goals to, well, the very essence of a life truly lived. Every big transformation story seems to start with a single moment of truth. And for this father, it was a day that started out completely normal, but ended with a realization that he just couldn't push aside anymore. So on the surface, everything looked great. He had a successful career, a family he loved, but underneath all that, there was this growing feeling of being disconnected. You know that feeling? Kind of like you're just a passenger in your own life, totally drained and just running on fumes. And then came the breaking point. It happened at a company cricket match. He was out of breath, embarrassed, but the real gut punch was just an innocent comment from his son. It was a simple observation, but man, it carried the weight of a profound truth. That was it. That was the moment he knew everything had to change. So that moment of shock, it didn't just fade away. No, it ignited a search for something way deeper than just, fleeting motivation. He knew he needed a real purpose, something sustainable that would actually carry him through the long haul. And he found his framework in this amazing Japanese concept called ikigai, his reason for being. Now, this wasn't just about finding a new hobby. It was about lining up his actions with a much deeper thing that came next. And this is basically how he translated that purpose into a concrete plan. Super simple, but incredibly powerful. The what was obvious, get healthy. The why was now deeply personal, his North Star. And the how, well, that was the next big challenge, the part he committed to figuring out no matter what. Now, here's a really key takeaway from his whole journey. He didn't wait for some perfect master plan, right? There was no 3-month research phase. The change began with just one single imperfect action. He just showed up at the gym the very next day. He simply started. Okay, this is where the real transformation, the deep stuff, began to happen. It stopped being about just lifting weights. It was about truly understanding how his own body and mind actually worked. He had this huge realization. Just putting in the physical effort wasn't going to be enough. Nope. To create change that would actually last, he had to become an expert on himself. He had to learn the science behind habits, cravings, health, the whole shebang. So he essentially created his own curriculum for change. He became a student of habit formation, of dopamine, brain function, and the science behind things like metabolism and intermittent fasting. He was no longer just going through the motions, he was an active researcher of his own biology. And check this out, the change wasn't just physical. He fundamentally changed his information diet. All that mindless scrolling and passive entertainment got replaced with science podcasts, audiobooks, and expert voices that were actively supporting this new identity he was trying to build. And through all of this learning, 2 core principles really stood out. First, purpose is what keeps you going when motivation inevitably fades. And second, just showing up day after day, that consistency, it is so much more powerful than going all out every once in a while. Look, having the knowledge is one thing, but making it work in the messy real world, that's the true test, isn't it? This is where his new system had to prove that it could stand up to the challenges of everyday life. And he didn't try to do it all alone. He made a pact with a friend, Ankush, and their rule was simple, but it was non-negotiable. Never break the rhythm. Even on the absolute worst days, even if he was traveling, they had to do at least 20 minutes. It wasn't about how long they went, it was about protecting the habit at all costs. His first major test came during a business trip to the US. Think about it. Jet lag, tempting food everywhere, social events. Everything was conspiring to break his new routine. But this is where he learned a crucial lesson. Adapt, don't abandon. The system had to be flexible enough to survive the real world. He also started developing these mental strategies for all the battles that happen outside the gym. When a craving would hit, he learned to interrupt that pattern with a new action. Go for a walk, put on a podcast, call a friend. He was learning to manage his mind, not just his body. So all of this discipline, all this learning and consistency, it all came together in a transformation that was so much bigger than what he had even originally hoped for. The physical results were, there's no other word for it. They were dramatic. He went from a starting weight of 115 kilograms all the way down to 78. That's a total loss of 37 kilograms, which is just an incredible achievement. But honestly, the numbers on the scale, they aren't even the most important part of this story. Because as he started to realize along the way, those numbers were never the ultimate goal. Not really. They were just a byproduct of something way more significant happening. The real transformation was internal. It was a complete change in his identity. He became the person he wanted to be, a man defined by his consistency, his discipline, his energy. A father who could not only be present for his son, but could fully, truly show up for his entire life. This whole journey led him to one profound conclusion. Health isn't something you just kind of fit in on the side. It's not a hobby. It is the absolute foundation upon which a meaningful, energetic, and present life is built. And so this entire story really leaves us with a question for ourselves. Beyond the surface level goals, what is that deep emotional reason for the change you want to make? What is your deeper why?